Hello, I'm Mike Gordon. For our 12th game of Christmas, I am finally taking on a Sega Saturn game. Don't expect too many Saturn games in the near future. The reason why I decided to cover 3D Blast on the Saturn is for a couple reasons. Number one, I already own the Genesis version of 3D Blast, and I already covered that game in Summer Sega. So I wanted to pick a game that's different from that to represent 3D Blast here. The second reason is simple. I wanted a Sega Saturn when I was 7 years old, and to this day I could never get my hands on one. So saw 3D Blast, I decided to cover 3D Blast so I could live out my dream. This game goes more for ambiance and nice melodies rather than the bangers of the Genesis release though. Also, there's a lot more background elements added into the Saturn release compared to the Genesis release, like those moles working construction on the walls for some reason. There's also some background elements, and there are also new special stages. Perfect playthrough conditions, same as your typical mainline Sonic game. Collect all the Chaos Emeralds. That's all you have to do. And honestly, the special stages in the Genesis version are kind of lame. They're pathetically easy. Like, you have to literally try to fail those special stages in order to not get all the emeralds. Also, you get 2 shots at the emerald per act in the Genesis version. And the Saturn and PC versions, you only get one shot per act at a Chaos Emerald. These special stages here are a little tricky, but they're not too tough. But they are at least more challenging than their Genesis counterparts. And hey, you get 3D Sonic here. Saturn doesn't have too many actual 3D Sonic gameplay, so this is nice to see. Difference between the PC and Saturn versions, they're mostly the same games, but they have difference. But the special stages are also different on the Saturn. So there are less background. There are less background detail. There are some of the assets for newly added background assets have been trimmed down. Some graphical effects have been removed from the Saturn release. And the load times on the PC version are a little faster. That's about it. Same music and same graphics and everything. Oh yeah, the Saturn and PC versions also have full directional movements, whereas the Genesis version only has 8 directions. This can make maneuvering Sonic around a little slippier compared to his Genesis version. I believe in the Genesis version, whatever direction you turn, Sonic will immediately turn in that direction and will go there. Whereas in the Saturn version, you basically have to steer Sonic around. You have to slowly manually turn Sonic around, which makes him move a bit slippery. I mention this because the PC version of the game was the version that I may not have gotten a Saturn for Christmas in '97, but I did get this game on PC. And honestly, and it was the last game, it was literally the last present that I unwrapped was 3D Blast on Windows PC. And I was absolutely ecstatic. And I was absolutely ecstatic that my mom was able to pull through with this one. So what am I doing right here? I'm prioritizing collecting 50 rings before speaking with Knuckles or Tails. And you might notice from the previous act, I literally had to take a cannon just to run into Knuckles. Because sometimes Knuckles and Tails will not be able to spawn in unless you enter that location from a different area altogether. Other times they're simply hidden away in a nook or a secret passage. And because it's generally faster to just go for one special stage per act anyways, the big change between the Saturn and Genesis version is not that steep. Though if I was playing the Genesis version, I would probably get the File 2 Emeralds in Diamond Dust 2. As the special stages are spread out enough where such a plan would actually be feasible. In the Saturn version and PC version, you only get one shot per act. Well, technically you get 2 shots, but once you get the Emerald in an act, all you can get if you try to play it again afterwards is an extra life. Extra lives are not that difficult to come by in this game, though. I mean, if you're gunning for 9 lives, go ahead and... Now, do not be deceived. The load times in 3D Blast on the Saturn are really, really long. I just trimmed them down for you guys' sake. Whoops. Oh well, I already exceeded the limit. The minimum requirements I need to clear the stage. And just like that, it's a little tricky to tell what color some of these emeralds are, but this is the silver emerald. So you have a green emerald and a silver emerald. I don't recall any other time in the history of this franchise where the silver emerald was the second emerald for you to obtain. It's usually one of the last colored emeralds that you get. Sonic 1 is the last emerald that you get. It's the order off the top of my head is, I think, green, red, blue, yellow. So the primary colors. And then you get purple and silver afterwards. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Sonic 2, it's like a light blue emerald first, which is usually usually one of the last emeralds. Then you get like red and yellow. Then you get pink, the only time where the pink emerald was ever used. Get green, and then you get green, silver, think silver was the last one, that one. So then you get like purple, green, and then silver. Again, as the last emerald. 3 and Knuckles brings back blue and in the light blue colors, but scrap the pink emerald. And those have been the 7 colors since. Basically, they went 7 colors of the rainbow, but scrap orange for silver. So you gotta do a lot of editing, lots and lots of editing magic just to make this all work. So yes, Sonic is pretty slippery here, and my strategy is to try to hit Eggman twice per round. Well, you only need 5 hits to take him out. And that's it for the Green Grove Zone, the opening level of the game. We're moving on to Stage 2, Rusty Ruins. Now, if I was playing the Genesis version, I would for certain skip the special stage in this act, because no matter who you go with, you basically have to go out, do some out of the way things just to trigger them. And the Tails one takes the longest amount of time, so you basically need every possible ring just to enter a special stage with Tails. Oh yeah, there's one other big difference. Okay, this graphical effect is not available in the PC version, but another difference I can recall is you can save your game in the PC version. I'm not sure if that's possible in the Saturn release. I would not be surprised if it is. The PC version, it's just manual though. You just have to, in window mode, all you have to do is hit File, and you can save your game from the File tab. Save and load and all that jazz. It's functionally similar to save states. Except it's very, very slow and time consuming. And honestly though, the Genesis version of this track really rocks. I actually do like the soothing, haunting melody of this game. I also like that sometimes there's like a squeaky mouse that plays peekaboo out of the urns in the walls. Those weren't in the Genesis version. Right now I'm just trying to collect 100 rings. And this is how out of the way you need to do in order to access Knuckles. You have to crit this passage, and then you have to try to steer Sonic's ass into this door to break the... Yeah, if I was playing the Genesis version, I would just nix this Rusty Ruins Act 1 as far as getting a Chaos Emerald's concerned. I might still just do that just to go out of the way and get a special stage in Diamond Dust 1. So it's not as out of the way. But oh well. I digress. So why am I having such an easier time with these special stages if they're a little harder than they're just are a lot harder than their Justice counterparts? Sorry about that. Trying to steer Sonic on the half pipe is a little tricky because he likes to swerve back and forth a bit. And Sonic cannot go through the half pipes quite as slick as he could in Sonic 2. Not as fast, not as slick. He's very clumsy and slippery to control. This is what I'm getting at. However, the game is quite generous as far as ring acquisition is concerned, but as the game progresses, that generosity becomes tighter and tighter. And that's it for this act. And I'm going. Oh, I think I spot Knuckles up there. I'm going to try to nab another Chaos Emerald off of him because he's really easy to get to. And by the way, yes, I am purposefully skipping some of these flickies, picking them up. The reason for this is because what's funny about this game is that whatever Badniks you destroyed will remain destroyed. So when you visit the special stage and then spawn right out, all the flickies you freed will be hovering around Sonic when you get back. A neat little speedrun exploit here. Now this is definitely a special stage I would go for, even if I were to have a do-over of this game. So, yep. So see, Sonic steers super awkwardly, so it's very easy to miss a bunch of rings while trying to steer towards them. Side note, but because there's so many rings in these special stages, whenever I have a choice between getting the rings versus taking those speed boosters, I gun for the speed booster so I could get through these a lot as quickly as possible. And now we have the blue emerald. And now I can just make a beeline towards the end of the act. Well, it should be noticed that whatever shields you have on when you enter a special stage, you will lose when you respawn. I went for that green crocodile green gear over there first because it's pretty easy to miss. So I haven't run into any flame shields yet. The blue shields are supposed to protect you from electricity in this game. The yellow shields are blast shields that basically give you a ground stomp, or I guess a homing attack. The red shields protect you from fire and lava. But that's... And here's a super fast boss fight. This is a universal strat that you can perform in any version of the game. Collect a couple rings, jump into the statue, top of the statue, recoil onto the left paw, and then quickly damage Eggman before he gets a chance to do anything. And that's it. 10 seconds. I'm not sure what the world record for that is, but I would not be surprised if it's one of the easiest world records to shoot for in any Sonic game. So I would like to think that I have a world record for that stage now, but I don't do world records, I don't do speed runs. It would be fun though. Try my hand at speedrunning, say, Sonic 2 or something. But I don't know, I just love to play hyper casually with games. Like to play games at my own pace. Alright, we're coming up to our first exchange with Tails. We're basically done with Knuckles. We need... Good. Here we are. Knuckles is a little too early to get, so I passed to Mo. No wait, he's a little later than that. Sorry, my mistake. So Knuckles is a little later on the stage as well, but he's a little out of the way from where we want to free all the from the badniks that we need to kill and free the flickies from. Yes, we have to free 5 flickies in every single section of any given act. So this will be our 5th emerald here. At this point, they're getting a little trickier. But so far, I appear to be rocking it. Pretty good. And I actually love that close-up of Sonic in all his 3D polygonal glory. It is truly Sonic's debut in polygonal form. It is a shame, though, that we never got a proper 3D Sonic game for the Saturn. The closest was Sonic Jam, and maybe I'll cover that one on 12 Games of Christmas someday. I mean, it is mostly an anthology game, similar to Sonic Origins Plus, but it does have its own unique 3D Sonic minigame, so to speak, with its own perfect playthrough conditions. divorced from the Socks 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. Purple Emerald, just 2 more to go. I also sort of dig the faint, quiet, yet I don't know. A lot of people prefer everything to do with the Genesis version of Sonic 3D Blast, and all I can really say is, okay. Honestly, I don't think the differences between the Genesis and Saturn releases are substantial enough. I suppose if you want to go with, say, controls, graphical assets, I think the one takeaway is that fans probably would have preferred a unique and proper 3D Sonic from start to finish, rather than a refurbishing of a Genesis game released a few months later. Just to make up for, oh shit, we don't have a 3D Sonic game, and we're not gonna have time to make one because we're gonna scrap the Saturn soon. Honestly, my parents were absolutely right to put their foot in the sand and tell me, look, we can't get a Sega Saturn, it's too expensive, and if we do get a Sega Saturn, you're gonna have to give it the PlayStation. Even though we had an extremely small and mediocre lineup of PlayStation games, literally the only reason why I wanted to play one of the Sega Saturn was to play 3D Sonic. That's Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Jam, and Sonic R. That's it. There are like hundreds of Saturn releases that would be perfectly fine on anybody's list of greatest Saturn releases of all time. But I was too young and too close-minded to open myself to any of them. And overall, I think it was a net positive that oh yeah, we're about to enter our special stage soon. This is one of the only instances of Knuckles and Tails being together in the same place. Because of this, we can only talk to one of them to enter a special stage before we can bugger off, because it'd take way too long to collect another 50 rings and then talk to the other one. That's even if I was playing the Genesis version, where you could get 2 emeralds per act. Because by that point in time, I would have already gotten all the emeralds. At least I have the ability to. Green Grove 1 would just be 1, though. Green Grove 2, also 1. Green Grove, Rusty Ruins 1 would have 0 emerald. I would not have gone for an emerald. Rusty Ruins 2, I would go for an emerald, so 3, 1, 4, 5. No, I would be at 5. This would be my 5th special stage if I was playing the Genesis version. And then I would skip ahead to Diamond Dust 2 and get the 2 remaining emeralds there. Because Knuckles and Tails are pretty spread out in that act, and it's pretty easy to get 50 rings in time for each of them. The Saturn release, the speedrun strat would be to do Green Grove 1, Green Grove 2, skip Rusty Ruins altogether, though Rusty Ruins 2 isn't too bad. It wouldn't be too bad anyways. Speak to Tails in Spring Stadium 1. Speak to either or in Spring Stadium 2. So for 4. Diamond Dust 2 for Diamond Dust 1 and 2 for the 5th and 6th emeralds, and then skip to the 5th Act 2 of Stage 5. However, I love my red shields in Stage 5. Very useful there, so there you go. So I'm just gonna make a beeline to the exit here because can't reach that token. You collect 10 tokens, you get continue. I don't know if this could transfer to like saving your game on the Saturn version. I don't know. I do know you can't save your game in the Genesis version. There's no battery backup, but three blasts on the PC and Saturn are both CD games, which means PC version you can literally save your game on the on your computer hard drive. Whereas 3D Blast whereas the Sega Saturn has memory cards, and I think there's even a built-in memory card as well that can store a limited amount of save data. Anyways, that's it for Spring Stadium 2. And so far, the bosses in Sonic 3D Blast are quite the cakewalk. Which is interesting. I literally have to try to chase Eggman both times, and that's it. Under 30 seconds. No effort required. And now for our Stage 4 Diamond Dust Zone. Acts 1 and 2. And again, both Knuckles and Tails are a little out of the way. To the point that you literally have to go uphill up those, what do I call those? Those snowdrifts. Which would take a freakish... Climbing those snowdrifts takes a freakishly long time, so keep that to a minimum. Now I forgot to talk about, since I'm not going to do any special stages here, I only have to share you a bit of information regarding the flickies. Each flicky has its own built-in script that describes what's gonna do. Blue flickies, which are the most common, appearing in all but one stage in the game, will actively try to seek you out, making them the easiest ones to try and catch. Red flickies basically hop around in a circle around the general area in which they were freed. Purple flickies will actively try to avoid you, while green flickies just move around in a randomly. Sometimes even running straight into a wall. Actually, running to a wall is probably what will make capturing green and purple flickies a little easier. It's actually the green and red flickies are the most difficult to catch. Red flickies because they hop around a lot, and green flickies because you have no idea where they're going. At least with purple flickies, you know that they're actively trying to avoid you. And will head the opposite. However, they don't do a good job at avoiding you. All they really do is basically head in whatever direction you're heading. So yeah, we maxed our lives already. And we cleared Diamond Dust Act 1. Now to move on to Act 2, and this is where we'll obtain our final emerald. Honestly, I would have, if in hindsight I had to choose between Diamond Dust 1 or Rusty Runes 1 for one of the emeralds, I probably would have done Diamond Dust 2 if I got another shot at it. Since there really is no straightforward path to accessing a special stage with 50 rings or more in Rusty Runes 1. But, too late now, I guess. And here, just like that, not just like that, I'll skip those two because as soon as I come back, they will already be a final special stage. Sadly there is no supersonic. The conditions for a perfect playthrough, all collecting the Chaos Emeralds does is unlock the true final boss and then the good ending if you manage to beat him. There is no supersonic. I've actually heard that. Actually, it's been confirmed by one of the developers that they were originally planning to implement supersonic as an unlock condition for nabbing all the Chaos Emeralds, but that got scrapped due to time constraints. They never programmed him into the game. So if you want to play as Supersonic and Sonic 3D Blast, there is a director's cut that you can get off of, that you can purchase off of Steam. That was actually developed by the game's original lead developer. It is technically counted as a ROM hack, but does restore Supersonic. And it actually makes the Genesis version more up to date with the Saturn PC, in line with the Saturn PC releases, by limiting you to just one special stage, one attempt at a Chaos Emerald per act. You can only get one emerald per act. I'm not sure what else they changed, but that's what I know. And there's the light blue or the cyan colored emerald. Typically the last emerald. So yeah, it kind of sucks that there's no Supersonic in Sonic 3D Blast. But to be fair, the main benefit of having Supersonic would probably just be for the super speed and the invincibility. Otherwise, the way I see it, the main reason of the gun for early Supersonic is typically to make it through really difficult sections of the game, as well as to blast through some boss encounters. And we already maxed our lives, and there's no continues up here, so I'm saying bye-bye Diamond Dust 2. Hey, isn't that the move that Shiva uses whenever you summon her in Final Fantasy games? It's just a coincidence. I think they were just, Sega was simply, shooting for alliteration here, not to make any references to to an RPG developer that I guarantee you sorry, not Disney, Sega probably wished that they could arrange to convince to develop games for their systems. I mean, imagine for one moment a Square developed Final Fantasy game on the Sega Genesis. I think the reason why this never happened was because I think Square simply preferred the technology of the Super Nintendo to the Sega Genesis. Which makes sense, the Genesis lends itself better to arcade-style action games, not RPGs. And I imagine that a Genesis version of, say, Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI would be quite the downgrade. Even games like Final Fantasy V or 6 or 4 or 5 would feel way worse. Though they did consider really developing Final Fantasy VII for the Saturn. And people have gotten Final Fantasy VII to work on the Saturn already. However, there are still some kinks that they have to go through, and definitely some unintended results. So it's not like Final Fantasy VII on the Sega Saturn is an absolute one-for-one of the Genesis version. There's definitely some differences. And it kind of goes to show that back in the day, the main reason why there are such discrepancies between console lineups, why there were so many console exclusives, was literally due to the specs and of say Sega's consoles, Nintendo's consoles, Sony's consoles, and later on Microsoft's consoles being so different that they couldn't share the light. That it wouldn't be until the 6th generation before we could finally have 3 rival consoles that could share multi-platform titles across all 3 consoles. And then there are so many shared multi-platform releases on the GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation that's ridiculous. Of course, usually the GameCube version is the best version to play whenever they went multi-platform, because every time they did that, they still had to take into consideration the game. They had to develop the game with consideration for the GameCube specs. So the PlayStation and Xbox versions are constantly being crippled by the GameCube when it comes to multi-platform releases. And don't get me started with the Dreamcast, which was so far ahead of the 5th generation consoles that couldn't really share any console exclusives without taking some severe nerfs in one direction or the other. And then by the time the PS2, and then when the PS2 finally hit the shelves, because the Dreamcast was dead when the Xbox and GameCube hit store shelves. They couldn't share any exclusive titles either. However, the Xbox, Sega did have a hand at seeing the original Xbox all the way through to production. In exchange, a number of the last of the final few Dreamcast games that never saw release over here would get ported to the Xbox as exclusives, like Shenmue 2. Anyways, this is another quick and easy boss fight. And sorry to say, it'll be the last time we will be able to get sub 1 minute in against Eggman. Off to Gene Gadget. And honestly, I think this is where the music actually starts resembling something you can hear, you can imagine listening in a Sonic game. Love the techno bop right there. It honestly makes me want to go traverse the stage even faster. And you even get some similar leitmotifs that you will be listening to in the final level of the game. There are 7 levels to play through, and this is the penultimate level. Interestingly enough, this is the only level in 3D Blast that doesn't have any background. That doesn't have a single background detail across any of the 3 versions. Not the Genesis, not the Saturn, not the PC version. At least the next level and every other level afterwards. Though there is definitely some foreground flourishes here and there. Such as the electricity. The loose electricity. And luckily for us, in both Acts 1 and 2 of Gene Gadget, we just have to collect 2 sets of flickies instead of like 3 or 4. In the next level, you only need to capture a in each act anyways. In the next level, we only need to capture a single set of flickies before reaching the final level. We have to head down here a little out of the way so we can free that flicky. There is technically another way down there, but it's one way, and I don't want to take that route. Now this is the only level in the game not to feature any blue flickies, as instead you have the green flickies which move around randomly. Purple flickies are probably at their most annoying to track down in this stage, because those blowfish that they are stored inside, those pufferfish badniks, love to hover above those fans here. And of course, red flickies which hop around everywhere. Rusty Ruins and Green Grove 1 only have 2 sets of flickies. Green Grove 2 and Green Grove 2 as well as Diamond Dust and Gene Gadget only have 3 sets of flickies, and Spring Stadium, Volcanic Valley, and the last level all feature all 4 sets of flickies for you to rescue. And we're done with Gene Gadget. We just have to take on the boss, which is probably going to take as long to beat as it did the previous 2 acts. Since we're right back to having to battle bosses the long, arduous long and honest ways. Mainly, we wait for Eggman to drop his castle a bit so he could start launching his missiles, and then jump into his cockpit. And this little trick where Sonic's back is literally up against the corner of the wall is a universal strat that actually makes battling this boss way easier. I recall not being able to beat this guy in the PC when playing the PC version as a kid. So it's great that YouTube basically reveals this nifty little trick here to help trivialize what would otherwise be a painstakingly difficult boss. And just like that, we have defeated Eggman yet again. And sure enough, it is roughly the same time it took me to clear Acts 1 and 2. Now we're heading off to the 7th and final level, Panic Puppet. And by the way, if you haven't collected all the emeralds, Act 1 is literally your last chance to clear a special stage and potentially nab a Chaos Emerald. After this, our access to the special stages will be locked from us forever. And you won't be able to collect them all anymore. Luckily, we already collected all the special stages, but I'll at least show you where Knuckles is located. Tails and Knuckles are both exceptionally well hidden in the final 2 levels. And it's on that nook that I just passed by that's surrounded by fans, is right next to the corner. Here, I'll show you. Right there. To the left. That will lead you to Knuckles. I have no idea where Tails is. Even looking at a map, I couldn't find it. Which tells me that Tails' location requires that he be spawned in from a specific location. You have to get to him from a specific location in order to make Tails spawn there. I have no idea where he is, though. So, yep, point of no return now. If you don't have all 7 Chaos Emeralds by this point, you will be locked out of the true final boss as well as the ending. And this music brings back memories. Even though I never made this far when playing the PC version, I definitely recall that Newgrounds video that shows Sonic done in flash animation of Sonic battling Mario. I think it was called Super Smash Bros. Extreme or something like that. And it literally ends with Sonic beating both the Genesis and Saturn versions of this track is an absolute banger. And I absolutely adore this music. It literally gives me in-game vibes here. No matter what version. This is why I don't care if you think, oh, Genesis version's better, or Saturn version's better, or PC. Well, who thinks the PC version's better, honestly? I don't know. And that's kind of weird. I didn't think it took me 2 minutes to clear Act 2. What the hell, man? But whatever. Panic Puppet Act 3 is here. And by the way, I double checked, this is the US version of 3D Blast, so again, I have no idea what the time discrepancy is all about. I think I have a theory as to what actually happened to explain the time discrepancy. It might be just how long it took me to finish the stage in real time. Maybe the in-game time is based off the Saturn's built-in clock. And when you emulate Saturn games, it may not take into consideration things such as save states or rewind. But just a theory, nothing more. I also like to think that since Traveler's Tales was a European developer, that maybe this game was simply meant to be played on PAL hardware, which runs slower. You do get something similar on the Genesis as well, like with Shadow of the Beast, which runs much faster in the US on US Genesis than it does on the PAL Mega Drive. Because Shadow of the Beast was originally developed for PAL territories. I haven't talked about this boss at all. All you have to do is wait till those little blue things on the arms start flashing before you can attack them. And this applies to all three phases of this boss fight, by the way. And this is actually the main game itself done. But we have all 7 Chaos Emeralds, which means we get to take on the final boss. And the Saturn version is the only version that has this background. Plain as can be for us to see. If you play the PC version, this background is nowhere to be seen. And we all know that it's not available in the Genesis version, it's just a black background. None of the foreground elements that help signify where the bridges are gonna be are even there either. So surely the Saturn version's the way to go if you want to speedrun this game? No, it's not. It's actually the Genesis version straight up. Even on the PC version, the load times absolutely kills it. Kills this game as far as speedrunning prospects are concerned. The Genesis version is the way to go, no matter what. And that's before taking into consideration that you can have 2 emeralds per act, allowing you to clear this game even faster. So I literally timed it to like a split second or two after they clenched their fists when they hit the ground. Here I just wait for them to launch missiles, and when I hear a sound or see a shadow form, I leave the square I'm standing on. And this corner right here is perfectly safe. However, once he starts raising his head when you start trying to go down and move parallel to him so you can actually hit him. Another difference, in the Genesis version, you can actually damage the boss by spin dashing into him. In the Saturn release, you can't do that. The only way to damage him is by bonking him on the head. I want to make room for myself as close to the middle as possible so I can hit the boss right here. And dealing with the flamethrowers is pretty easy so long as you remember to be on the far west end as possible when making the third trip. This makes sense. And I just have to hit this guy 3 more times and I will officially achieve a perfect playthrough of the last mainline entry left to cover from the classic era of Sonic. Well, there's technically one more classic era mainline Sonic game to cover, but that's Neo Geo Pocket Station. I don't know if I could get that a run on BizHawk. Who knows? So as the 1 hour mark has passed, so if you were to scrap the first 15 seconds of the video, which was just my intro, this would be... we would be crossing the 1 hour mark right now. At this point, everyone in my room will be telling me to hurry up and get off the Saturn, god damn it. Because it's my turn to play the Saturn, or it's my turn to watch TV. I want to watch the Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets or the Denver Broncos. Gamblers, am I right, fellas? Gambling addicts. But it's right there at the end of the game, and I actually really like the opening and any FMVs of this game than whatever we got in the Genesis version. The writing in the Genesis version is kind of cringy, so I could do well without. All you need to know is that Eggman decides to capture the Flickies so he could make use of these interdimensional rings so he could track down and collect the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic came down here to free the Flickies and stop Eggman from collecting the Chaos Emeralds. You know, same old, same old. And you get an interesting bit of Europop as a reward for beating the Saturn version. It does sort of drone on for a while. It is a bit on the bland side, but I think it's a nice song to listen to. I hope I don't get copyright struck because it's a song. And YouTube is super sensitive about having songs play in the background. Though to be fair, I don't think I got flagged for any of the use of actual lyrical songs when I played Xenogears. I forgot the names of the songs. Not for the end credits, not for the other song that got scrapped. But as for 3D Blast, I absolutely enjoyed this game. And I absolutely loved the game as a kid when my mom actually got the game as a Santa present. The last Santa present in 97. It was the PC version and I made do with it. But yeah, I don't love this game as much as I used to. I think the pressures of, oh, this game wasn't that great. It's actually one of the worst Sonic games of all time. Sort of damper the tone a bit, and I can look at it from the objective standpoint and say, yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to the OG, to the mainline Sonic games, like Sonic's 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, CD. But, you know what? I have a strong sentimental attachment to this game. It's like telling me that Floating Runner sucks. Yeah, it's not a great game, but I have a strong sentimental attachment for these games, and I cannot help but appreciate what these games meant to me. And I definitely have a strong... and this game in particular now has a very strong place in my heart, because I finally achieved my dream of finishing the Saturn/PC version of 3D Blast, which I was never able to do growing up. I don't think I will ever be able to thank my mom enough for getting me this game back in 1997. She knew how much I wanted a Saturn and knew that they couldn't afford one. So she went out of her way to get me the PC version of 3D Blast instead as a compromise. Mom, thank you so very much, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Another year, another 12 games of Christmas in the books. We still have one more game left to cover. The big one. Number 100 to be exact. As of this moment, I have yet to begin filming this one, however. After all, it's taken me all of November just to get to this point. So the release of my honorary 13th Game of Christmas will come in its own time. Hopefully by the end of the month. So stay tuned for next time when I take on my 100th perfect playthrough. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. With all out of the way, this is Mike Gordon signing out.